Alright, what's good, people? So today we're going to talk about the XL Fozy. It's made by lemifshe. It's absolutely enormous. It comes in at, what was it? It's 8.5 inches opened up, 5.7 ounces overhaul. It is just a beast of a knife. I mean, let's go ahead and get this out of the way. So here's the regular Fozy. And if we go pivot to pivot, you can just see, like, good Lord. It just makes the regular one look ridiculous, in my opinion. Like, it's just so much bigger. Like, it's like they just upgraded everything about it 40%, 30, 40%. It's almost double the weight. Did you see that? Woo-wee. The action on this one is so good. It's so much better than the Jaful one. Like, there's no way these two are coming out of the same shop, in my opinion. There's just no way. So let's set this guy off to the side for just 1 second. Let me actually close it up before I end up fucking hurting myself doing something stupid. But this milled texture on these handles is amazing. It's super deep, but it's not so deep that it's bothersome. It just gives you really good traction on it. The clip has a different milled pattern on it, and it's got a lot of spring, so it goes in and out of the pocket super well, even though you're riding on top of this texture. The jimping is actually done better than the Jaful one, so I think it's more accurate, if I'm being honest. It's just like grippier all around. And then the swedge, I think, is pretty accurate. The plunge grind is done phenomenally well. It's basically all the way back to that line. Look at how thin it is. And then, like I said, the action on it. And this is no play on anything. Up, down, left, right, opened up, none of it. Lockup's actually, it looks light on there, but it's actually like 30%. So it's like right where it needs to be. I have spine whacked it and haven't had any issues with it. It's so good. And this was the detent that it had right out of the box. Nice and snappy. I took it apart, KPL'd the bearings, and the bearings inside are, they're like the kind Tucson uses. So they're the ceramic, the white Delrin looking plastic material with the ceramic balls inside of it. But they actually work really well. I never have a problem with them on any of my Tucsons, but a lot of that is because they, put the track inside with theirs on the washer side. This doesn't have the track, but it'll wear in the groove really fast. It's just getting better and better the more I flick it, Yeah, the reverse flick's great. The thumb flick's actually better on this bigger one than it is on the regular size, in my opinion. It's just easier to do. I think just because of how far you're having to reach up, and then because my thumb wants to naturally hit this little groove right here. So I'm not having to go like, straight out like I do on the regular size. On this one I have to go like straight out in order to get any real leverage on it and really make it kick. This one I can actually go up and out. And then again, just the drop. The drop's just so nice on it. And the texture. But let's look at how much thicker it is than the regular one. It's so much thicker. The regular one, weighs 3.2, and then again, this one's 5.7. The blade stock thickness is actually comparable on both. It's almost identical. We can measure it real quick just to see, but you can kind of see how the jimping, it's like the same deepness almost on the grooves, but these are spaced out a little bit better, and they're just ever so sharper. Not enough to like hurt you or bother you, but just to give you super meaningful traction. This one's good too, don't get me wrong. It's just this is a little more grabby. And then this is the second batch too, so the swedge on it is actually done closer to the original. This one's done pretty close in my opinion as well. And then these are numbered, but thankfully they're all numbered 50. I mean, not thankfully, I'd rather this not be on there, but at least you know 50, they all say 50. There's two versions, this regular stonewashed version and then a dark stonewashed version, but it still has the same milled pattern. But on the dark stonewashed, I think it keeps this same regular stonewashed clip, if I'm not mistaken. And then the hardware is bead blasted, which is nice instead of it being the satin, which looks god awful in this. I need to ferric chloride the hardware on this one to get rid of the shininess on it. Maybe one day I'll get around to it, but the back spacer is actually done up higher too, like it is on the original. So on these, it was kind of short, you know. This one, it's up higher where it should be. This thing's crazy thin behind the edge. I want to say it was like 15 thousandths behind the edge. Let's just measure it real quick. Let's just do blade stock thickness compared to 133. Nope, gonna be smaller, thinner on here, so 111. And then let's see, behind the edge, I have to get fucking down here around it with my unsteady ass hands. God, and even then I'm shaking like a damn whore in church here. Alright. So we're 17 behind the edge on this one. God, I'm just so bad at doing this on camera. That's too far up on the edge itself. Let's try to get right behind termination there. 14.5. So it's really thin. I've measured it pretty much like 14 to 15, and it gets a little thicker out here towards the edge. There's 19, 20, but I'm pretty far up on it right there, if you can tell. Anyways, it's plenty thin, and it slices really good. So I'll just kind of show you. I brought out a piece of this. It's too fucking big. Let's just cut it in half. So you can see this thing's gonna slice like a dream. I mean, you don't have to put any effort into it, and it's just gliding through stuff like melted butter. You know what I mean? And I've already broke down quite a few boxes with it. And it's held up great. So it's D2. I forgot to mention that. It's D2 on the steel, but he said he, compared to like, I think this was 154 cm on the Jiffle, but he said he went with D2 on these because they know how to heat treat D2 better than any steel they work with. And I think he had it listed at 61 or something like that, maybe right at 61. And I think that's accurate. So this is by lemifshe too. It's the McNeese 3-inch clone. I had this one poked by Apex Alchemy on his real HRC tester, and it got a, what did it get? I wrote it down. What the fuck did it get? Shit, I can't remember. I thought I wrote it down over there somewhere. Oh, a 60.5 and a 60. So 60.5 and a 60. And then this one was actually a 58 something, but he chalked it up to being too close to the laser engraving, because if you get too close to this, it throws it off. I actually did that on another one that he showed. But again, this is 154. So, and you know, I think they can do a better job on D2, and they do a cryo on it too. And to me, using this thing, it feels like it has a pretty darn good heat treat on it, if I'm being honest. Just as good as, you know, I thought this one had a pretty good heat treat on it too. And my SPK Lamia by Jaful too. You know, I've used the shit out of this knife. And then, you know, the lemifshe ones, like I said, the other two that I have that I've used a good bit of, this one and the McNeese 3-inch, they both feel like they have, you know, sufficient heat treats on them. And this one just being so thin behind the edge and being such a tall flat grind, and then this stonewash being just nice and smooth and done super well, it just, you saw it, it glides right through material. And then you can see it's still ridiculously sharp after that little bit of cardboard we just broke down, you know. This is old shitty notebook paper from a notebook I found in the closet from probably fucking 20 years ago. But it chops it up like it ain't there, you know. While I sit here and make a big goddamn mess with paper every fucking where. Let's move all that shit out of the way. So, but you can see this thing's enormous. It's like the only issue that you have with it is so big. I really wish lemifshe would do a regular Rosie, because I think it will be better than the Jaful one. Don't get me wrong, this Jaful one, if you get it tuned just right and throw skiffs in them, they're extremely smooth, but they don't fall shut like the original does. And they're not machined as well as this is. So this doesn't have any sharp edges. This is not sharp. This is not sharp. It's actually like knocked down. Like you can see, it's hard to tell on camera, but if you have it in person, you can see it. But they actually went over this and knocked it down to make sure that it wasn't sharp. And then just the tension on the lock bar, it was like they actually tuned the detent right. You know what I mean? Like making it nice and stout. Versus on the Jaful, it was pretty light. And then, like I said, this is super sharp. I mean, this right here is really sharp. This down here is pretty freaking sharp too. So it's just not quite as nicely machined. And even this one, like when I compare it to say this one, it's not done quite as nice. Like all this is knocked down really nice, you know. The action on it's really smooth. They fall closed under their own weight, you know what I mean? This one, it's better, and this one's pretty darn smooth, the batch 2 one, but it's still not closing under its own weight. And I think this one, you know, being that the blade is so big, is contributing to that a lot. But then it's just so much smoother. Like there's no gritty, I mean, you hear it, but it's still wearing in, and that's the detent ball running on the steel. But the blade isn't so big on this that it would be like, you know, doing all the work for it. Don't get me wrong, it's a big blade, but it's not doing all the work. A lot of it is just the bearings that are in there are decent bearings. You know, it would probably be even better if you put skiffs in it, or I know it would be better if you put skiffs in it, but yeah, the action's just so good. And then, like I said, all this being super knocked down and this mill on it being so nice, like it's just really nice. And then like choke back, look at how big this thing is. It's ridiculous. It's a freaking pocket sword. And then choked up, you've got, you know, all this hanging off of the back of it. You know, but it's still, you know, I carried it all day today and yesterday. And, you know, I didn't really have a problem with it, even though it's 5.7 ounces. I mean, it's borderline on the edge of what I would want to personally carry in my pocket at work every day. Let's kind of look at it with some size comparison. So I was about to do it a minute ago and then got to jibber jabbering again. Here's the other lemifshe rattlesnake design one. Phenomenal knife, done super well. You can see how much bigger it is than this one. Let's get right over top of it. Let's throw up the regular Rosie again just to We'll go butt to butt so you can just really get an idea of how freaking ridiculous this thing is. Look at that. Good Lord. What a massive object, you know, but this, like, choked up, it's perfect. If I go back here in the standard, I'm like a, you know, I can get all four on there, but my pinky's like halfway on. It's like, and that's with me cramped up here. If I'm really choked back where I should be, my pinky's almost all the way off, you know. But this knife was meant to be held in the choked up spot, just like the XL is. I feel like, you know, I mean, this is kind of where you're naturally gonna want to be. But if you had to, you can be back here. You know what I mean? If you really thought you needed to stab into something and didn't want to worry about slipping up on the blade, you've got plenty of grip back here. I don't feel the clip in either spot. It's actually done really well. Like I said, it goes in and out of the pocket really nice. It's just massive, man. It's so big. I was having trouble even finding knives. This is, what is this? Tucson TS425 and K110. This is like one of the biggest knives I have, I think. And it is damn near spot on. This thing, you wouldn't believe it. I had this tested by Apex Alchemy too. It got a 63.5. That is like ridiculous for K110. And I haven't cut a whole lot with this thing because it's so big, but the action's phenomenal on this guy too. And I did have to cut this back because the access was terrible out of the box, but now it's super easy to get to. I mean, this is a phenomenal knife, and it's like $44. If you go on White Mountain Knives and they still have it in stock, it's like $40, I think, after the discount. The Fuller works great on it. So, but anyways, if you have this, it's damn near about the exact same size. Another one that's really close is the TS. Can't ever remember the numbers of these. 376. I think this is pretty damn close too, if I remember right. It's a little shorter, but it's pretty freaking close. Another phenomenal knife. You know, this one's in M390. The action on it, aside from having right there, I called it having a late detent, a little bit of a late detent. Other than that, it's a pretty phenomenal knife. Let's do something maybe some more people have. The Militar. Shorter by a pretty big margin. I mean, look at that. Thing's it's such a beast. Let's see, do I have anything else that people might actually have? This Kubi Salo. Smaller by a fairly good margin. Let's do shoot. Trying to find something people might actually have. Let's do these two last. These will be the last two. Let's go the top liner lock raccoon. Probably should have had this better prepared, but oh well. If you sit through it this far, I'm sure you'll sit through this last little part. So this one's smaller. You know, if you hear my voice stretching like that, I'm having to look up over the camera. I had to set it up so high because this thing's so big, you know. And then the Vision FG. Of course, still smaller, but it's just enormous, man. It's an enormous knife. And it's not just the fact that it's like long, it's thick. It's thick, it's wide, it's just a big giant object in your hand, you know what I mean? But in like the best way possible, if you know what I mean, because it's like right on the edge of what would be like too big for somebody. I just can't get over how much better the action is on this than on the GIF full copies. This is what I imagine the action would be like on the real one, especially after it breaks in for like another couple of days, you know. It's just really good. And it came with a really nice edge. Like I said, it's really thin down behind there. The jimping is done super well. The sharpening choil is fan-freaking-tastic. We can look at that again. There's no wonky spots anywhere in it. On the blade, it all feels symmetrical, smooth, you know. The mill, I can't get over the mill work on it. It's just so nice. It just feels so good in the hand. The only knife I have that has like this deep of like mill lines on it, not even my Megarons have this deep. The only thing I have that has this deep of milled lines in it is my Kunwu Compadre. It's a great knife. It's so good. You can slow roll it. Like I said, the reverse flick's where it's at. I mean, I feel like that was like, you know, what this knife was meant to do. But yeah, I just wanted to put this up there so people had some information about it. I'm not sure if it's still available. And if it is, I'm not sure how shipping is going to work right now. So I kind of want to talk about this too. Like I saw, you know, we got the tariff things, and the tariffs in themselves aren't really the problem. The problem is how USPS is going to implement this whole procedure. So like you saw yesterday where they've decided to hold all incoming packages from China. And so that's going to create a huge clusterfuck. Then I saw again today that they've reversed that and that they're going to send those packages out until they can figure out what they need to do as far as charging people and how they're going to implement all of that whole procedure. But it's just going to make for a big fucking problem when you go to buy stuff directly off of AliExpress, because these are shipping directly from people in China. You know, it's not like a Kubi or a Kaiser where they're shipping it to some warehouse here or some other facility here in the United States, then shipping it to you. Like, these are coming directly to you. So it's just a little bit different in my opinion as far as like how it's going to work. I'll be surprised to see, you know, how it works, but we'll see, you know, we'll see. Again, one more time with the regular Rosies. These ones, this one, my plain Jane one, I know y'all are probably tired of hearing me talk at this point, but this, man, this one's so good. It's so snappy. And aside from it not being drop closed on its own and having to shake at home, oh man, it's so good. And this is with a little bit of blade play. If I tighten it up all the way, it's a pretty heavy shake shut home. And then it's the same way with this one. So if I keep it a little looser right there, then it's a nice, you know, easy shake home. If I tighten it up to where I don't have any blade play, it's a pretty aggressive shake closed. But I'm okay with having the little bit of that for the trade-off, you know. And then on this guy, we don't have any of that. None of that. And I can even have it looser than this and fall, you know, like a fucking guillotine if you want to. But I want this nice controlled, because this is like where it came out of the box and how this should be screwed down all the way, in my opinion. You can crank it down and it's still going to fall like this. Yeah, it's just the tolerances on this are done better, in my opinion. The machining's done better. Just all around, it's done better than these. By a decent little margin, in my opinion. Now, this thing was $90, you know, $90 for D2 and titanium. But when you look at how big the slabs of titanium are, the amount of millwork, and then all the skeletonizing that went on to the inside of it, what seems to be a decent or pretty darn good heat treat for D2, like, I'm okay with all this, and I'm okay with the price, you know, for sure. I like D2 almost better than 14C, if I'm being honest. The only drawback is it's not, you know, stainless. But as far as like edge retention goes, D2 will put 14C in the dirt, you know. 154 CM, now we're starting to get into a little bit of a different territory. But then again, it depends on how good it was heat treated. You know what I mean? But still, I'd take 154 over 14C or D2 any day of the week. So anyways, this video is way too long. All right, y'all have a good one.